All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network was talking about really the expectations with the seventh overall pick and brought up how we should expect the Jets to build around quarterback Justin Fields as opposed to drafting his heir apparent, if you will, right? There's been some quarterback buzz with the New York Jets. I mean, we've seen them meet with a bunch of different quarterback prospects, whether it's Jalen Milroe. There seems to be a lot of smoke with the Jets and Milroe, whether it's, the 30 visit, the combine private workout. It just seems like there's a lot of Milroe buzz. Then you factor in his skill set being similar to Fields. There seems to be a lot of smoke from beat reporters specifically and Todd McShay about Jackson Dart. Personally, I just can't see it. I just can't see the Jets going with Jackson Dart at spot number 7. He's probably not going to be there at 42. We've seen the Jets meet with Cam Ward. We've seen the Jets meet with Quinn Ewers, Cam Miller, North Dakota State, Tyler Shuck on a 30, on a top 30 visit, and there also seems to be some buzz with Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord. But I think really, the plan of attack at spot number 7 should be pretty simple. I don't want to downplay the job of a general manager, right? Obviously, but I think it's pretty clear what the New York Jets need, where the New York Jets are at. Looking at the current state of the roster, trying to project outwards, 2026, 2027. Okay, who are we? What type of team do we want to be? Where are the areas that we really lack? I feel like the Jets this season, yeah, and granted, we haven't seen a single practice. We haven't seen a single draft pick or anything. But it really just feels like like it's so weird, right? Because when I'm thinking about the Jets right now, under Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn, and we haven't even seen a game, but I feel like they feel like internally they have a better idea on what they are than the 4 years with Saleh and the 6 years with Joe Douglas. Like that regime previously, it just never really felt like we had a true identity. Like, yeah, play good defense, and hopefully we could develop Zach Wilson and maybe Aaron Rodgers can take us over the top, but we didn't have those like set in stone like, this is who we are. This is who we want to be. This is how we're going to get there. And with Glenn, it's like physicality, toughness, people that love football. We have direct blueprints from the Detroit Lions. We have a blueprint from the Denver Broncos on how they kind of built their team throughout the years. And both Denver and Detroit built through the draft. That's exactly what Muji and Glenn talked about, building through the draft. It just feels really like crystal clear on what the Jets are and where the Jets want to be, as opposed to in the past, like, what direction are we really going to go in? It doesn't really feel like, it feels like half the building wants to go with team need and free agency and the draft, and then the other half of the building wants to go with like the best player available and like let's stash players behind guys that have contracts running out. But looking at the 7th overall pick, we are in such a good position moving forward, right? Whether the Jets go with offensive line, like an Armand Membu, he's the one being talked about the most. Whether the Jets go with a tight end and Tyler Warren, that's going to help the team. Rappaport said, could the Jets maybe go with the tight end? Maybe it's a little too early, as far as like where to pick a tight end in the NFL draft. But, I'm personally not going to rule that out. Tyler Warren checks a lot of different boxes for what the Jets need / want at this point. Does a Will Campbell fall to the Jets? Personally, I'm not the biggest Will Campbell guy. I have questions about his game, but I'm really curious to see where you stand on Will Campbell down below in the comment section, right? Because you have obviously arm length questions, wingspan questions, and then you're going to be taking Will Campbell and moving him over to the right side, moving Olu to the right tackle position. I just feel like it's out of the question. That's something that I would not do in the slightest. I don't like moving guys around unless you have that kind of innate ability or you've shown that ability in college. It's one thing if a player's open to it, but it's another thing if the player's open to it and is excelling in that area and you don't really have that big of a fall off. So if the plan is Will Campbell at spot number 7, right, say the Patriots pass on him at 4, whatever it is, he's on the board. Do the Jets stick him at right tackle and move forward like that? Would you like that, or do you think it's maybe a bit of a reach? I also believe trading down is a realistic possibility as well. Could a team in the Pittsburgh Steelers want to come up? Could a team in the New Orleans Saints want to jump up a couple of spots, go from 9 to 7 to secure their guy? anything. I mean, we can look back at last season. Anything is possible when it comes to the NFL draft. You know, it's one thing to one thing I'm always kind of going back and forth with in my head. Like, it's one thing to just like look at mock drafts, right? And you're seeing like all the common picks. Mason Graham 5 to Jacksonville, Ashton Genty 6 to Vegas, right? You're just kind of like so ingrained. You're seeing all the names linked to the teams, the 30 visits, combine workouts, pro days, this and that. But right now, like, it's completely open. You know, and we have a bunch of new coaches and a bunch of new GMs too, picking like that have high picks. You know, Glenn, Liam Cohen at 5, Mike Vrabel at 4, Kellen Moore at 9. Dave Canales is still a really, really young coach with the Carolina Panthers, right? So he's only going into his second draft. We have teams up in the top of the draft, right? Andrew Berry, Stefanski with the Browns, Shane Dayball with the Giants that have a lot of pressure on them to succeed and get this, team moving in the right direction. They have to improve dramatically in the win total. So really the point I'm trying to get at here is I feel like this draft is going, like, we can see some curveballs. You know, last year I felt like it was pretty clear cut on where teams were going to go with the offensive linemen, with the quarterbacks, with the wide receivers. It was a very offensive heavy draft. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think offense literally was the pick through the first 13 selections in the draft. I think it was literally all offense, but I digress. The point is, it felt very obvious on which direction teams were going to go in. But this year, I mean, man, let's just say everyone's mocking Membu to the Jets at 7, right? What happens if Mike Vrabel looks at Membu and his athletic ability and is like, he can be the starting left tackle? And now all of a sudden he's off the board. Will Campbell's on the board. What happens if the Jacksonville Jaguars were thinking Membu at 5? You know, they are invested in building up the offensive line. Liam Cohen's coming in from Tampa. What's Tampa known for? Having that stout offensive line, that top 5 offensive line up front. They were going to go with Membu. Now he's off the board. What direction do they go in? Do they go with the Will Campbell? Now all of a sudden is Mason Graham on the board for the Jets at 7 if he gets past the Raiders at 6. It's interesting to kind of think about, right, different draft day scenarios. I think the draft prep, the mock draft prep is going to be key for general managers, especially, for the GMs in the mid first round. Because like if you're late first round, you have a bunch of players that are kind of graded in that same area. But if you're a team like the Cardinals, the Falcons, Cincinnati Bengals, Seattle Seahawks, like there are players that could be on the board that they did not see coming. And then there could also be situations where maybe their top 3 or 4 guys that they have on their board, like in regards to whatever it is, pick 16, 17, 18, they're all gone. And now they have to quickly pivot on the fly and, move down their board. Or in some cases, move up their board if someone is there that they just clearly did not expect. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. According to Ian Rappaport here, the Jets are looking or expect the Jets to build around Justin Fields as opposed to going with a quarterback early. So anyway, thanks so much. And as always, go Jets.